the Security Dialogue.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You are welcome to another episode of the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television and Media International. My name is Sadiq Educhum. Today with me in the studio to discuss yet another important topic on Islamophobia, understanding the role of fear. I have to my left Maulvi Omar Ajiman Jesse, who is the National Coordinator for Review of Religions, one of the publications of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And to my right, I have Maulvi Faraz Yassin Rabbani, who has been with me for the last 2 weeks. I mean, a wonderful guest, very deep-rooted Islamic scholar, a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Ghana, and also a member of the MTA staff. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, today we take a look at Islamophobia, as I have mentioned, understanding the role of fear. And you will bear with us that considering the tragic and horrendous attack on the World Trade Center served to construct an unmistakable shape to Islamophobia in the world, and it worked as a fuel for an already lit fire of Islamophobia and aggravated the situation with numerous attacks on Muslims. The situation became dire with George Bush's unequivocal pronouncement that is, either you are with us or against us. This statement promulgated a cultural war between the West and Muslims, described by the us versus them slogan. Although Islamophobia is a term that has been used frequently over past decades, it still needs to be unpacked carefully. The term is an amalgamation of two words, that is Islam and phobos. The latter is a Greek word meaning fear. The former refers to religion, and that is Islam. Many scholars have argued that Islamophobia means fear of Islam. Now, as I've indicated, we are here to unpack this very phenomenon because it has become the chewing stick of the world in any destructive situation. It is being described as an act by some Muslim group, and it is a way to impose fear in people. And so that is how the religion itself has been described. And we want to understand from this great man of ours. More for us, I will want to start with you to ask that how would you, or how do you feel, or why and how Islam is described in this manner? And then I want to follow up and ask whether Islam is a threat to the Western world. If so, how? And if not, to how?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Islam by definition means peace. Peace with who? Peace with your Creator. Peace with other human beings you live with. And peace with your own soul. So Islam embodies peace from every angle you can look at. But it is very unfortunate that of late, Islam, which means peace, has become the opposite, and people deem, and mostly it is because of lack of knowledge and understanding. If, for example, they had read the 116th Congress of the USA, and the first session of that said, and I quote, "Congress finds the following: white supremacists and other far right-wing extremists are the most significant domestic terrorism threat facing the United States." So you cannot take the facts away that they acknowledge that Islam or the Muslims are not the biggest threat that they face. It is white supremacy that they are facing. But then the other issue is the coverage, and I did mention of it in one episode earlier on, that the 2018, one of the 2018 column in The Guardian wrote, and I quote, "Terror attacks by Muslims receive 357% more press attention." And one study that I quoted said, 105 headlines are given to Muslim by people who called themselves Muslims and did the terrorist attack, and just 15 to others. So this shows that there is disparity somewhere.
Okay.
Because Islam does not teach any kind of terrorism. It condemns terrorism, and it even says, as many of us have said many times, that killing one innocent person is as though you have killed the entire mankind. So you cannot justify terrorism whatsoever. But those who do it in the name of Islam are given more publicity. And this is something that should be looked and
So are we supposed to fear when we hear the word Islam?
that's what I mentioned.
And why should we not?
You should not fear
I mean,
Islam.
from the context of, from the Quranic context, from the books of the Holy Prophets and also the Mahdi. Why should we not when we hear Islam?
When you hear Islam, you should not fear Islam because there are over 2 billion people worldwide practicing Islam. And you don't face any threats from them. It is a very small population which will not even make up to 1% of the Islamic population, which have misunderstood deliberately or unintentionally the Islamic teachings and are using it for their political and personal motives. But coming back to the question of Islam, Islam says that you are only a Muslim when you love. This is the saying of the Holy Prophet. And you can love when you are having good relations with yourself, with your family, with your neighbors, with your friends. And another saying of the Holy Prophet was that you cannot be a Muslim until and unless people who are with you or who are surrounded by you are safe through your hand and through your tongue, meaning you are even made a guardian to protect the society at large.
Thank you very much on that. Thank you so much on that. Movi Ajiman Jesse. This is the first time I'm meeting you. A wonderful, person. I'm sure you're going to help us to also understand some of these things. But following it up with what Movi Faraz has just explained, I want to understand whether, from your own perspective, and you're also a Muslim scholar, would you, in a very practical manner, say that this is just the Western construct of how they describe the Muslim community, or that is the way Islam is? Because earlier in some of our discussions and with Movi Faraz, there's a quotation that I gave to him that from one of the review of religion books that says that, and I'm paraphrasing it, anyone that sort of say bad words probably against the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's like we will not take it kindly. So in that case, you see some sort of a defense that is being outlined in that kind of statement. And for that reason, sometimes people think that the Muslims are intolerant and so they must be feared. Is that the case, or is just a social construct?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jazakumullah for the question. Well, I would say, just to add a little to what Faraz said, I would say that Islam is a threat to the Western world. This is to say that we all know when you are truthful or when you speak the truth, definitely you will not be liked by any other person. So Islam, because of its beauty, because of the truth that it carries, so the West feels threatened by that. And so that is why they always make Islam as their point or their target in order to get whatever power that they want to achieve in their lives. Now, this is something that is built by the West. Let me give you an example of Pakistan, for instance. Okay. If you want to win an election, you would have to say that Ahmadis are not Muslims. Okay. And then you get millions of people following you.
And why
so,
that?
Yes, so that is the target. Okay. And that is what people believe in.
Okay.
If you get that voice listening to you, if you get people get to hear that, okay, these people support what we believe in, so it is easy for us to gain the power that we are looking for. Mm-hmm. So that is the same thing in the West. Because of past experience that the West has gone through, the attack on France, the 9/11, incidents, all these things, they are attributed to some so-called Muslims. And so that enmity or that hate, that pain is already existing. So you just need to just light something and then it will be set ablaze. So that is what the West is using.
Okay.
But Islam in its beauty can never support these heinous teachings.
Okay.
It is not true.
Okay.
That Islam, as my brother just mentioned, Islam is peace. Islam in fact comes from the word peace itself. And so the statement you made from the Review of Religions that someone said that if someone speaks against the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it will not be taken lightly. But it will not be taken lightly. How do we mean by that word?
Exactly.
As Muslims, how do we not take the thing lightly? And this is proven from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his own life. He was ridiculed, he was molested, he was mistreated, but he never retaliated. He was only saying to them, salam, salam, peace, peace, peace. You are jahil, you are ignorant people. You just go away from me. I don't have anything to do with you. So Islam teaches forbearance. That is the teaching of Islam. And so we will not take it lightly. Means that the means that you use to talk against the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it is social media, whether it is an article that you wrote, anything, it is the same means that we are also going to use to defend the holy personage of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Wow.
So it doesn't mean that we are going to raise arms against you. It doesn't mean we are going to fight you, but it is the means that you used that is the same means we are also going to use to protect the image and the holy personage of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you restrict yourself as a Muslim, if you restrict yourself to violence, someone says, Na'udhu billah, the Holy Prophet is like this, and then you restrict yourself to violence, it means that you have no proof to defend that the Holy Prophet was not like that. So the moment you take a sword or you take something up to fight the person, it means you are empty, you have nothing with you. But the person says, the Holy Prophet is like this. You know, my friend is not like this. This and this is the beauty of the Holy Prophet. And this is why he was chosen by Allah, the Almighty. And this will impact something heavier on the person than just fighting him. You fight him tomorrow again, you come and do the same thing. It will never solve the problem. That is why the fourth Khalifa said that swords can only bend heads, but cannot bend minds. You see, this is a very powerful statement. That you can use swords to fight people, you can make them bend their heads, but the heart in them, nothing will change. So this is the beauty of Islam, and this is how we defend the holy personage of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
I mean, this is fantastic. I want you to share with us, and of course with the viewers out there, few classical examples of that embodiment of removing this kind of fear when it comes to Islam. I mean, putting it to the practice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the advent of the Messiahship, and then also subsequently the various leaders that we have had till this very time. I mean, some very practical classical examples that we can share with.
So we go to the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have numerous examples. And then, for instance, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam stayed with Abdullah bin Ubay bin Sulul, who was known as a hypocrite, someone who used to conspire against the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But never did the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam order anyone to kill that person.
Okay.
Because he understood that he was in the process of learning, and so he stayed with the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he continuously taught that person. Even after his demise, he did the janazah of that person, and then later on Allah the Almighty told him not to do that. He even prayed for him. Allah the Almighty stopped him. Okay. So this was the love of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for even those who hated him. You take the example of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in his lifetime, where he was with a group of people, his companions, and then some people talking about Islam. So someone amongst them just stood up and then started insulting the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that you are this, you are that, you are, you are not true, you are something like that, and insults in that matter. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam just smiled and then just held to his beard, and then he was just listening to the insults of that.
We need to keep the beard.
Yeah, exactly. And then he was just listening to the insults of that person.
Okay.
And then he never insulted anyone. He never insulted the person back. And he never told any of his companions to attack such a person, because he understood that you can only use your force just to bend his head, but the heart's in him. And then surprisingly, this person afterwards accepted the promise of alayhi salatu wasalam because of that beautiful character that he demonstrated. And this is what can win the hearts of people, not through violence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much on that. Viewers, we are trying to establish contact with one of the experts that we have. As soon as we do that, we will also take. Okay, I'm told he's ready. So we want to take the views of Mr. Moses Jatwat on this very discussion. Mr. Moses Jatwat is the former executive director for the Institute of Intelligence and Strategic Security. He is a researcher and security and intelligence expert. I think currently he's somewhere up north on a field work. I mean, he's a fantastic guy. We want to take his view from a more expert disposition as against the various religious backgrounds that we are getting. So, hello, Mr. Moses. Assalamu alaikum. In fact, this is a very fantastic platform. So let me give you the Islamic greetings of peace. So, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wonderful one day. Wonderful. So, I mean, I know you have a very tight schedule, so we didn't want to take much of your time. But, I mean, in a brief, we are discussing Islamophobia, and we are trying to understand how the world has constructed this kind of phenomena, or how they have worded this kind of phrase in order to sort of attack a certain groupings. But you are a security and intelligence expert. I mean, you've done a lot of work when it comes to that area. I mean, you have dealt with some form of extremism and some form of terrorism and all of that. We want to understand from you, how do you see the word Islamophobia being used by the conservative political elite to employ fear as a tool to ensure compliance and submission to power?
First of all, thank you so much, MTA Television, and I want to extend my greetings to your cherished viewers and listeners.
Thank you.
Islamophobia is recognized as a phenomenon that is directed against Muslims and hence Islam, by non-Muslims. The term Islamophobia was initiated as a concept, in 1991 Urine Trust report, and defined as unfounded hostility towards Muslims, and therefore fear or dislike of all or most Muslims. A generally established notion in the world is that Islam is monolithic and a violent religion, with extreme political, ideological stance, and it does not share common values with other religions. Actually, the history of demonization and marginalization of Islam in the world, since colonial times, and more so after the incident of September 11th attack, terrorist attack upon the United States, as well as the resultant violence in the name of Islam, have, concerns not only in the Muslim world, but also in certain quarters of the world. One of the issues in this debate on this particular subject is that many in the West deny that there is anything called Islamophobia, because they believe that Muslims believe and pursue, violence. American Christians, for instance, tend to stereotype Muslims out of pain and anger. And this feeling, did not only appear after, 9/11, but has since been there, since the colonial time. So it's an issue that, and even if you look at the following, 9/11 attack, the terms extremism and terrorism were used, synonymously, and were associated with Islam because 9/11 perpetrators were, from the Muslim countries, and the methods used by militants in the name of religion, as well as names even chosen by them for their outfits. You look at Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Al-Shabaab, and in our own sub-region, names of terrorist organizations like Boko Haram, Nigeria.
Yeah, I was actually going to go there. Yeah, I was actually going to go there. So bring us home and let's look at the especially within the West African sub-region, how these groupings are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So continuing from there, even if you look at some of the names that are associated with the terrorist organization, like I mentioned Boko Haram in Nigeria, you look at Jamaat Nusrat Al-Islam Muslimin, which is Al-Qaeda affiliate operating in Burkina Faso, and Islamic State in Greater Sahara. All this continue to draw global attention, on the subject of Islamophobia. You see, so furthermore, even if the mass media and other publications also concerning Islam have tried to explain a distorted, image of Islam. You see, but looking at, in our sub-region, you will realize, the Sahel, that for instance, when you take Mali, over 90% are Muslims. You go to Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, the same thing. And it is of a concern when it comes to violent extremism and threats of terrorism, because when you begin to marginalize, you stereotype certain people, you begin to create the conditions, of marginalization, and to create a vehicle through which terrorist organizations can exploit.
Okay. So what from your own view, looking at the fact that in as much as these groupings somehow, some way are dominant within a certain geographical jurisdiction that are more, let me say, they are more Muslim groupings. But would you say that their act in itself will connote that that is how Islam is supposed to be? I mean, from your expert view and, of course, some of the researches that you have done and some of the engagement that you have done, will you say that that in itself is just a tool that they are using to press on their own demand, or it is that basis of the teachings of Islam?
Yes, in my interaction and experience with most Islamic scholars, indeed they denounce terrorism and violent extremism in their teachings and all that. But like I said, it's a very difficult situation to separate issues of violent extremism from Islam, because these violence are perpetrated in the name of Islam, and that is the most difficult thing about it. You see, terrorism is not. We have in elsewhere, we have people engage in terrorist violent extremist activities in the name of other religions, but not Islam.
Okay.
So this particular subject is something that I think the Muslim community, supported by other faith groups, we have to look at how these things can be addressed. Because once you stereotype a particular group of people in Ghana, when you take, for instance, the issue of Fulani, where they have often complained about marginalization and stereotyping.
Okay.
I've always mentioned that this thing is creating grounds because they feel not part, and therefore that becomes a ground for them to begin to behave in a way that is not appropriate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moses Jatwat. I'm sure we'll be able to come to you another time for these discussions on the security dialogue. But for now, I want to thank you for your time. Until such another time that we'll have the opportunity to get to you. We want to thank you so much. So we are back to studio, and we just spoke to Mr. Moses Jatwat, who is a former executive director for the Institute for Intelligence and Strategic Security. He's also a researcher and a security and intelligence expert. So, gentlemen, I mean, we are. This is from more or less, I term it secular point of view in terms of somebody's practice. But you are, Muslim scholars. And so he mentioned that the concepts that view Islam as monolithic, violent, and then they have extreme political, ideological underpinnings, which is being embedded in the teachings of Islam. Moussa, and you sit at the helm of affairs of reviewing most of our publications when it comes to a review of religion. Tell us how monolithic, how violent, extreme political, ideological underpinnings in distorting the world order by Muslims.
Well, as we've already mentioned right from the beginning, that those things can never be attributed to Islam. Islam opens its arm for each and everyone, because we believe that we are all from one creator, and then religion was brought by Allah the Almighty to guide us to himself. So the divisions that we find does not divide us at all. It rather unites us. And so Islam cannot be seen with that one single eye, but Islam is a religion of diversity. It accepts each and every one. And so for that matter, Allah the Almighty alludes to this, this issue in the Holy Quran, that your differences that you have, I mean, your tribes, your creed, wherever you are coming from, your caste, that is only something to differentiate between you. But what Allah the Almighty actually looks at is your righteousness. And so that means that no one is superior to the other. And that is what the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also alluded to. He also mentioned it in his last sermon before his demise, that the black man or the black person is not superior to the white, neither is the white superior to the black. An Arab is not superior to a non-Arab, and neither is the non-Arab superior to the Arab. So this means that Islam is a universal religion, and also a religion of bringing people together from all different forms of walks of life. So Islam does not support this idea at all, and then Islam, just throws such idea far away from it. It is only the political view of people that, as I mentioned, they only use Islam as a tool, in achieving their political powers or political gains in this world.
Okay. Thank you very much, Movi, Umar, Ajiman, Jesse. Movi, for us, I will want to end with you. I mean, the discussion is becoming very sweet, let me say, because for me, in as much as I'm a Muslim, but the enlightenment gives me a sort of peace to be able to also tell the world out there that Islam indeed stands for. But taking the last words from you, let's see which way do you think that as Muslims we are supposed to conduct ourselves in order to, show the same practices that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, brought to us? How? So that we can remove these biases from the world.
So, in the context of Islamophobia that we are discussing, it is very important to mention that they say that you cannot clap with one hand. You need two actions or two reactions before that sound of the clap can come. Now, the same thing is what's happening in the world. On one side, the Western world tries to champion the cause of freedom of speech, and they have substandards when it comes to Islam and other. For example, there are some topics about which they say that though you are allowed by freedom of speech, would not allow you even to speak about them. I would like to mention the case of Charlie Hebdo, that this magazine used to publish cartoons, and they did so about the Holy Prophet ﷺ, very vile kind of cartoons. Now, what happened is that a Muslim got infuriated out of it, and we condemned the action of the Muslim. His actions were not justified by any cause. There is no way you can justify killing anyone because he insulted the Holy Prophet. As our brother mentioned that the Holy Prophet never did so. So we would condemn the killing of any innocent person, whether he insulted the Prophet or he did not. Putting that aside, now when Pope was brought to the spotlight about this, he said, and I quote, about his friend, the friend was standing with him about Dr. Alberto Gaspari. Okay. He said, and I quote, "It is true that you must not react violently, but although we are good friends about the person he was standing with, if my good friend Dr. Gaspari says a curse word against my mother, he can expect a punch." So that action of the Muslim is not taught to him by Islam. But sometimes you, by these cartoons, under the name of freedom of speech, you are hurting the sentiment of the other. So we do condemn the act of the Muslim, that he is not allowed under Islam to punish anyone for blasphemy. But on the other side, as you have checks for freedom of speech, insulting or harming the sentiments of others when it comes to Muslims should also be included, so that these kind of violent activities and actions in the name of Islam do not happen, because they do not project what Islam is. It is somebody's personal emotions that he did that out, and we condemn that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Movi, Omar Ajumanjesi is the National Coordinator for Review of Religions. He's also a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community here in Ghana. And then Movi Faraz Yassin Rabbani, who's also a missionary with the Ahmadiyya community in Ghana and a member of the MTA staff. We want to say that this has been a very fruitful discussion here in the studios of MTA International. Until we come your way, same time next week. My name is Sadiq Edijum. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.